lyrical, spiritual style. Lyrical, spiritual style.
So I'm just going to give you a rundown, kind of a short rundown of the man, the myth, the magic man himself, Kip Killagain, the legend, aka the legendary King of Jungle, with a record label called Kings of Jungle. My DJ for many, many years, still my DJ. I don't think we ever officially said we're not ever performing again together, but I've probably done more shows with Kip than I ever have with anybody in my life. And we found each other through the jungle scene in Arizona. And Kip was, he was a protege and a legend before I ever met him. His name held a lot of weight. And I remember being super excited to meet Kip because everybody had talked him up so much. Oh my God, he's this 14-year-old DJ. You got to see him. He's killing it. I forget the dude that you were playing with at the time.
Might have been DJ Odd.
It was Odd. That's right.
Yeah, DJ Odd.
Yeah, DJ Odd. Yeah, and at that time, I think the year was 97, bro. 97. The year that raves were like exploding, 95, 96, 97 was the explosion of the counterculture of the rave scene. All different types of music that were falling under the electronic or electronica genre of music, and jungle and drum and bass being one of them. And when I was introduced to you, I don't think I even remember it being called drum and bass. I think we only called it jungle, and there was like a significant differentiating factors to both genres, kind of like how hip hop and rap had both. Like people that were into hip hop back then were like, I don't rap, I MC,
I
and
think
the same thing.
I definitely fell into the jungle side of things for sure too.
Yeah, it felt more camoed out, man. It felt more natural, and it felt more kind of rootsy, like how hip hop was.
Now I appreciate everything, as far as drum and bass and jungle. I have much love for all of it, but I think at the time I was a bit leaning towards the jungle side of things for sure.
Yeah, I think we kind of had big heads about it too. There was many of ongoing crew riffs within the scene, and definitely our crew, Rough Something, was a little rough back then when it came to displaying how much we loved jungle music. But before we get too far ahead of that, I want to kind of go back and have you tell your story of how you got into DJing and jungle music. I know you started off skating and writing graffiti, which was a big part of your style, and the development of your sound.
Well, I guess I have the same story pretty much. If you ask me, my sister kind of showed me electronic music, and that was like 1991. And at first I didn't like it, but yeah, pretty much everybody in my circle either skateboarded or painted graffiti. So that's kind of, yeah.
What music were you into before you got into jungle?
Before jungle, it was mainly punk music and hip hop music, of course, and a little bit of reggae,
What was it that you didn't like about electronic music when you first heard it? Do you remember?
I didn't accept it. I thought that it was like not a real thing. Like it didn't seem to me like you were supposed to make musical notations on a computer. I was like, no, you don't do that. Like my mind just like X-nayed it. It was like, no. But I was like, yeah, you're not. I guess in my mind, I was like, you're not supposed to make musical notations on a computer. You're supposed to make them on instruments. But then, I finally kind of heard jungle music for the elements that it was, and it was really a collage of everything that I was into, especially punk had aggressive drumming, like
Mm.
punk music, and then it had elements of hip hop and elements of reggae and car bass, which was really a part of something that I was into at the time. Like between like 91 and like 94, there was like car bass competitions. They would pull out cars into like the parking lot of different establishments in Flagstaff, and somebody would win money, like $400 or $500. They would go around with a decibel reader and the person with the loudest car.
That's tight. Yeah, that was a good era for bass. Definitely the beginning stages of
So I was hearing that, and at that moment, like Miami bass and like bass music, I kind of understood that it was like electronically computerized like sound waves of sorts, sine waves initially, to like test car speakers, but I I didn't really like accept into my world that like hip hop music and like bass music was like electronic.
right.
Like I still that didn't seem like electronic to me because I had like known of like techno music, and I was
Right.
just like, oh, techno, it's just like, rhythms made with like drum machines, and computers, and that's not music, and then I think, yeah, finally I heard all that music for what it was and realized that it's all actual music, and there was notations happening on the computer, Like I said, it just ended up, jungle music kind of seemed to be the collage of everything that I was into and listening to at the time,
It seemed like jungle at that time was like the subgenre of a subgenre because like I had never even heard it. I in the Bay, I heard, obviously freestyle was huge. So break beats was huge, b-boying was huge, house was huge. But I had never heard jungle until I moved to Arizona and you guys had shown it to me.
Yeah, I think that it was, I think more, well, New York is more of a concentrated city, but I think that in New York, it was more accepted, like into some of those scenes, of
Mm,
electronic music. And, probably a lot more of a Jamaican culture too in New York than on the West Coast. So I think that,
how did it end up in Flag?
um, like I said, I kind of just stumbled across it, and it was so hard to find, um, that it was like there was maybe a handful of CDs that you could find in the USA at the time. And I started saving up money and got lucky, I would say, because I started making calls out to London, saving up money for long distance calls and ordering records from record shops, across the pond. And I would say I got lucky because those guys hipped me to the like 12-inch, like the disco 45 12-inch.
Yeah.
Like previous to that, I think that I was searching for different compilations of things that you could find in the US, but they were kind of vague over there. Like they knew of the songs, but I think some of the compilations that we were getting in the US were kind of botched a little bit, maybe illegal of
Mm,
some sorts, because there's a guy, Dan Donnelly, that owned Sub Bass Records.
right.
And
Yeah.
he just kind of was like, if you were in at that time, you could get like the top songs from all the like super awesome producers, and he was just like carrying around all these DAT mastered versions of songs that guys were playing on dub plates, you know, in the UK, and then he was like making compilations under sub bass, you know, and using his distribution.
I
Really,
think those were some of the first compilations that I heard, and I think you and Phil and can't remember who else. Maybe it was more introduced me to that stuff, and I think that's some of the first like tracks I heard where I was like, when I heard it, I was like, damn, I don't think anybody I know has ever heard anything anything like this, and it was intriguing, you know, because me being an MC at that time, I was like so beat count was so important and staying on beat was so important that Jungle showed me like when I listened to it, I was like, holy shit, there's two different tempos inside this rhythm. There's that and then
yeah, that's a that's like
there's slow and fast.
that's what blew my mind. That's what I was saying. It like, oh man, and I was so mad at this guy too at the time. I think it was probably '94. This guy, Dave, pretty sure his name was Dave. He went by DJ Scrappy. I was over at his apartment and I was like mixing records with him, and he told me I was nodding my head wrong. And like I was so mad at him for telling me that I was wrong.
Why? What did he say? You're not it slow? Too slow?
I think I was just nodding my head like crazy to the beat or something, you know. And he told me I was nodding my head wrong. But bless him, because at that moment I really did start to listen, and I heard how the bass line was turning over at a certain measure, and how everything was actually music within certain measures, you know. And I was like, oh wow, you know, I was like, there's no wrong way to nod your head, but it really opened me up because I really started listening to the music a lot more, you know.
Is that kind of the point where you decided like I'm gonna try to hop on some turntables and start DJing or trying to figure out how to mix
I
and
guess I
match
say
beats?
that's why I got lucky, because the guys in the UK, when I was calling to the record shops like Boogie Times Tribes and other stores, they the guys on the phone were like, "Oh no, you don't want that compilation because the pressing isn't very good. There's like 6 songs on a side or something, you know." And I didn't know anything about that. That's what I was saying. They hipped me to disco 45s, you know, 12 inches that were cut at 45 RPM.
Right.
That's like what allowed us to play on big sound systems, because you play like a compilation onto a sound system and it just gives feedback, you know. So it's like that. That's why I was saying we got lucky, because like we were actually able to get booked in DJ shows because they were sending me 12 inches that were like the real proper ones, you know, the real official 12 inches for all those songs that were, you know, getting bootlegged onto compilations out here in the USA, you know.
Yeah,
So
I think not to
I
jump
kind of ended
to
up being a top DJ, you know, for that time, because I had cool tunes that they were sending out. They're like, no, you want this on 12 inch, you know. And those ended up
I like I was saying, I don't mean to cut you off, but I
no,
want
you're
to
good.
keep this thought until so I don't forget it. But like, not to jump too far ahead, and it's not too much farther ahead than what you're talking, the area you're
And I'm
talking
just
about.
nerding in.
You always had like, man, your shit always had quality sound, and it seemed like you always knew how to mix each record. You had good records, and I'm sure they were mixed well, but you always knew how to EQ them just right to set a certain tone and a certain atmosphere for when we were playing. And this, like, I think everybody I've had on the show so far, which is only 2 people, I'd say this a lot, but I've never seen anybody set a tone and select the way that you do. You've always been one of the best DJs I've ever known, and probably my top number 1 to ever sit and like listen to a set. And you know how to set an emotion through the whole set. It's like there's an art form to it, and I think people don't realize that because everything's so disposable nowadays. But back in the day, you set a tone and told a story throughout the whole thing, where when you were done with your set, well, when you were starting your set, it was like goosebumps, you know, and then when you were ending your set, it was like, fuck, euphoric, you know what I mean?
But
So
there's still magic, you know?
yeah, there was a lot of magic to it, and it's like it was your canvas, man. Is what you were amazing at and great at. And I don't mean to jump ahead, but I wanted to say that before I forgot.
No, and that's something that I think, you know, gave me such confidence, you know. It's just really experiencing that magic, you know. And like I said, I'm so fortunate to have been able to have so much time and shows with you, you know, because it's like we just we gave it a chance, you know, and that's the best thing that we could have ever done, you know.
It was a great time in my life, and I think I didn't mention this, but you started a crew with Odd called Rough Something, roughly around the time you started DJing, and then we picked it back up again, and then we went full force with it, and we were playing these humongous fucking raves where like I've never played a hip hop show that was even remotely as big as some of the raves that we had played, and it was so fucking live and everybody was dancing, and it was before this era of, you know, trap and rap music where the kids are moshing and all that stuff. It's like this was huge, good vibes. Nothing ever went too negative except for a few situations that were kind of funny situations, you know. But yeah, those days were really important and definitely shaping the way that I even just write rap, think about music. You showed me how to mix beats, and that art form in itself is something that, like, when Serato came around, I was like, you guys can't even fucking match beats, you know. You know how you would have two techniques, and you'd have to hit those pitches just right to get those beats to match and just play out the whole time. When did you start? Did you get your first set of techniques and start DJing?
Oh man, um, I must have been. It took a long time. I think I was like 15,
Mm.
14 or 15, but I had been DJing since I was like 11 or something, or like at least interested, you know, and like messing around with it. There was a guy, Pete Larkin, who was a bus driver for the university here in Flagstaff, Arizona, and he just happened to be like a cool guy, and he was like a DJ in the '80s, and he let us come over once in a while and mess around with his turntables. And I think he's kind of the first guy who really gave us the green light, me and a few of my other friends, to kind of like play with turntables. And he had like disco, he had disco and like some techno and house music, you know.
And then you got to mess around. Is that where you learned how to match beats?
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. I don't think that I fully understood everything at that moment either. It was like I knew that house music and disco music was all four on the floor. So it was like just pick a kick, you
Right.
know, pick a kick, and just if you can get the kicks going together for even a little amount of time, you would have a moment just to blend them together and, you know, cruise into the next song. But it was like that's it, that's what I was saying. I don't think I even fully heard jungle music for what it was, but I was like collecting it. And I was over at Pete's house one time with my friend Bo, who I skateboarded with,
Right.
and
Yeah.
also
I
got busted
remember Bo.
painting graffiti with.
Right.
But he he like took some of my jungle records and was like matching them, you know, like beat matching them, and it was like a light bulb in my head. I was like, whoa, they made that music to do to do that with, you know. I don't know. I don't know for sure if, to this day, if they ever made that music to DJ with, but in my mind it was like the light bulb went off. You know, it was like the key unlocked the door. It was like, oh my gosh, they indefinitely made that music that with to make two songs go together like smoothly. You know, like, it was like in my mind, I was like, that's the definite reason that they made that music. You know,
It's you know how incredible it is nowadays that you can just like throw something on an MP3 and like put it on Serato or on whatever and just right away play it. Like you could literally make a track within an hour and play it out at a club, which back in the day that you're talking about, it took a while to get a dub plate pressed up and then be able to pull it out and play it at a party for people. Yeah, I remember when we made some stuff and put it on dub plate and it was like one of the most exciting times in my life to hear a record and beats that we have made and put them on, you know, speakers, loudspeakers at a club. I forget what club it was, but it was one of the regulars that we used to play out at in Phoenix.
yeah, it's like the hair on the back of your neck. It's like, oh,
Yeah. It was a special feeling, man, and I feel bad for the new generation because they don't really get to have that special feeling, especially even right now. You can't go to any clubs. These kids can't go to clubs and party. That's why I was telling people like, yo, we got to bring back the underground warehouse parties. Right now would be a perfect time to do it. Everybody's ready to party and get the fuck out of their house. Boom, throw that big soundboy system up and fucking murder it, you know?
Yeah, I just recently had a friend that owns a dojo here in town offer me his space to throw a rave in, and I was like, I truly have been thinking about it, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to like mess up his dojo. I got too much respect for the space.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, it's a tricky situation right now, especially with everything that's going
Well, and
on.
I know I could hire some people to be, you know, like security or whatever.
Right. And you know, there's also you run the risk of people getting sick and all that stuff, you know. But so I don't think I even got the answer out of you. So when did you get your first turntables? You were 15?
Yeah, I want to say, yeah, somewhere 14 or 15. I think it was actually official. I remember my dad helped me buy them, and we got them from a guy, Ben, who was moving out of town, and he was a house DJ, and he was just like a college student, you know, and I think he needed money to move or for whatever reason, you know.
By the time I started seeing you play out, I can't remember, man. When we met, it was around that time. I was definitely about 15 when we met. And shit, maybe just turned 15. Because I definitely had just moved from California out to Prescott from Phoenix. Well, we moved to Phoenix and then we moved to Prescott, Arizona. Shouts to all the Prescott heads and the Northern Arizona folks. I'm trying to remember the first show that we played together. It could have been like a Dozy Pitch show. There used to be these parties out in the woods of Prescott Valley. And shouts to Chef Brother Luck. He remembers those parties really well because we used to go to them together. And it was just bonfires, generators, huge speakers, turntables, lots of acid, and a whole crew of folks. And it was like, I've never experienced parties like that before. The desert parties in Arizona around that time were insane. Insanely cool and special. Real special. Do you remember seeing the I don't know if you were at Dozy Pits and we all saw the UFOs, 5 of them fly up, go down, fly up, go down, move away, go up, go down.
I don't know if I was with you guys then, but I've definitely seen that same thing you're talking about.
Yeah, Arizona's known for that shit. It's hard to explain to people because if you don't live in Arizona and you haven't experienced Arizona, it's a lot of people understand what I'm talking about out there. But yeah, I can't remember the first party, but I do remember a really, really amazing party that we played together at the Nile. You remember that party in the basement?
Oh
Doug
yeah.
was there. My boy Rodney was there. He was visiting from Oakland, and then it was like the first time he had ever been to any shit like that, and like a rave, and it was packed, sweaty, packed, and just rough. The whole floor was going up and down. There was a party upstairs. That floor was going up and down. The energy in those places are unmatched by anything I've ever
I'll
ever
never
ever
I'll
played.
never forget that. I'll never forget that night. Actually, I have a funny story about that night. Phil, that was before I drank alcohol at all,
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
and Phil decided he wanted to force me into a shot of Jack Daniels,
Mm.
and we drank a shot of Jack Daniels, and I wasn't feeling that good. And he's like, "Well, come up here." And we went up in the alley, and he like smoked some real like horrible swag with me, and I threw up right before me and you played music that night.
Dude, that party went off
But
too.
I remember we played. I remember the records that we put on. I remember playing Plug. Remember the Wagon Christ Plug
Yeah.
stuff? We were playing like that real high energy experimental jazz, like jungle stuff, you know?
It was you set the vibe with all that. What did you play Nottingham that night too?
I think probably, yeah.
You most likely did because I probably always suggested it at every party. That and I think you played Shattered, the Onisis
Yeah,
track.
you know, we were playing that real atmospheric.
Yeah. Yep. Those tracks
Yeah.
were incredible, man.
And it was like everything was going off for me because I'd like just thrown up, you know. I was like, whoa, what the heck, you know?
You want to hear another throw up story from when we played? Do you remember playing DJ Swamp Party? It was fucking huge. It
Yeah.
was huge. And I had I think I just took a 10 strip or something, dude. My pops was there too. And he was like, yo, you gotta go on. Kip's on stage. And I'm like, hurled super hard before I went on, and we went on and just ripped it until the morning time. I think you did like a fucking 3-hour set. That crowd, there was like 10,000 kids at that party. And then at the end of the night, do you remember the end of the night at that party?
The lady running around.
The fucking crackhead that
Crackhead pancake
out of
tip.
nowhere. Yeah, crackhead pancake tits. She's a legend. And she
No.
pulled her top down and her pants. It was like nothing was there. It was like shit. This was what her boobs looked like. They looked like thumbs pointing down because she had just smoked so much rock and meth. But she was like dancing to the music, and she accidentally elbowed you, or she just came up and elbowed you out of nowhere. And I was tripping. I was just like, "Yo, you okay?" Man, that was a funny ass night. There was a lot of shit that went down that night that I will not ever leave my head. I think Kwon was there that night too, bro. Kwon Wu might have been there that night. So okay, so we're at 15 raves. Boom. When did you start producing? That's
there we go.
That's close to my heart because I think you and Evan taught me how to use the MPC.
So it was around 96 when I started getting interested.
Right.
And it was all kind of drum machine based stuff. And it was like the MPC was like the pinnacle of all the drum machine stuff. And yeah, the MPC is like, yeah, we finally made it there. And it was like a struggle because I had friends like Boo, you know, that knew that was what we were supposed to be doing. And he had a little more money than I did for sure, you know, and he was able to he got like a couple of them, you know, and then he just wouldn't let me or Jake touch them for the longest time. And I think finally Jake had saved up some money. We like hustled some shit, you know. We went and pawned a guitar and we like got some like herb and we like hustled herb and then like saved up, and Jake, it was like Jake's focus, you know, and he got one, and then me and Jake finally got to actually touch it and start messing with it, you know. And then Boo finally gave up the other ones when he found out we kind of figured out how to use them, you know.
Yeah, and I remember Evan E Cuts had one and he let me borrow it for a while, and that's when I figured it out. I was just like hitting samples after samples, but
Yeah,
sampling off a
you were
CD.
always like way intuitive with any of those things too. You're like, oh, you had other samplers and stuff too. Like we
Because Quan had a bunch of samplers,
yeah,
remember?
yeah, and I remember going over to Kwan's in Tempe, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember um, messing around with drum machine over there. That was kind of the where things started off too, with like 4-track and 8-track kind of like microphone recordings for like raps and stuff
Yeah,
too.
that was the rough tape days, man. That was
Yeah,
I think because I put so much focus into jungle music with you, where I was like, shit, all I'm doing is freestyling. And that's when I was doing the freestyle battles too. Remember those battles? And then I
yeah.
was like, you know what? I need to take a break and like learn how to actually structure songs and make
I remember
songs and
going
stuff.
to the Mason Jar,
Mason jar. Yep.
and
Yeah,
you
those shows are
got
fun.
involved with some stuff that was going on over there.
Yeah. I think there was a jungle party there too at one point. Oh no, I'm thinking of Pompeii and Higher Ground and all that stuff.
The Mason Jar now is called the Rebel Lounge, and it's actually a really nice place. They got an awesome sound system. I
That's
keep
that's
trying.
tight.
I keep trying to get a job there.
Man, I mean, you're just telling me you used to play the Mason jar. So that's on my resume, bro.
Sometimes the things that come out of my mouth aren't the best things for my resume in Phoenix, for sure.
Well, I mean, I think you and I talked the other day, and I think starting a roller rink would be fucking awesome.
So yeah, that's like my dream.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to just have a store, like a record store, lifestyle store
Hmm.
slash. But really, what I've been trying to do is get a space that was like a venue
Right.
that was big enough, you know, to have roller sessions, you know, because
And parties, bro.
that yeah, that's like I'd love to have shows and have the roller derby girls be able to have their bouts, you know.
I'd be sick to do a show while they're having their bout in the middle.
I that's and I mean that's kind of where I got to all this point too, is because uh, my buddy 001 is in tight with the derby girls, and I've gotten to DJ some bouts before.
That's
And
awesome, man.
I was just thinking to myself, you know, I'm like, man, like they just love me, and it's cool that they let me come play music for them, you know. But like if I had a space, they would be paying my rent too, you know.
I I think you're like you're built for owning a venue. You know what I mean? Because the sound would be on point. You would be doing everybody around you a favor that wanted to go to a show because your
Yeah, and
sound would
I
always be on point. The visuals, everything would be well
the
manicured. You know.
the hospitality of the music and the guests, you know, is something that I care about. But
That's it. I always dreamed of owning like a venue slash bar at this point, just because the bar is necessary to bring people in. You know, people want to drink and have fun. But definitely always dreamt of having like a cool venue where I could just book all the people that I want to see play. You know, kind of like the shows we used to throw in Phoenix.
and that's kind of where my life has come to now. Here, you know, in Flagstaff, as far as it's like a small town, I just kind of am like keeping my culture here, you know,
Mm,
and and being able to have a show kind of selfishly where I'm able to book the DJs that I want to hear, you know.
Also, Flag is a rad town, man. It'd be a good like destination place for people to come to when they want to get away from wherever the fuck they're from. and go to a cool place like Flag, man. I got a lot of good memories in Flag, and it's had a huge place in my heart because I
Yeah,
don't think people realize
and
Flagstaff is a part of Arizona that snows and it gets all 4 seasons and it's beautiful when it's
that's what I was gonna say too. As far as my international traveling friends, this is a really cool place for them to visit because I'm able to take them to the Grand Canyon and things like that. Um,
I
my
still have never
buddy,
been.
my buddy Spiky T, he's a British Jamaican
Mm.
original jungleist, and he came out here and I got to take him to the Grand Canyon, and he was just like blown away. He was like, "You just live here?" I
Yeah,
was
you
like,
know, I think I took it for granted, man, being out in Philly, like everything is close. All the houses are just like you're right on top of each other out here in certain cities in the East Coast. And man, some days I miss that Arizona sky. That's huge. It's humongous. It's purple. And Flagstaff, going from Flagstaff all the way down, it's just a different terrain. Arizona is a beautiful place, and it's a good place for music and outdoor fun too. You know, summertime's out there doing parties. All the parties you guys used to throw, amazing, man. If you ever get to experience stuff like that, more intimate desert parties, not how the rave scene blew up and now it is what it is now. Like I don't even recognize the rave scene when people show me pictures from EDC or whatever these big ass raves are. I'm like, fucking, that shit looks like it's a Facebook rave. That's like a Facebook rave. Doesn't look like what we used to go to, you know.
no, no,
It still
we're
looks fun, but it's just like I don't know, man. It ain't the same. Coming from the beginnings, it's hard to see that and be like, I don't know, man. I don't think these people even like the music. They're just coming here to fucking dress up and be seen, you know.
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, and everything going on right now. There's a lot of that. I think we were having a conversation and I stopped you, and there was something I wanted to talk about with you specifically, but I can't remember what it was. It's been a long week, man. Having kids and all that shit. But
Well, it's a
so
good life.
fast forward a little
Having
bit.
fun and being a bad dad too.
Rad Dad, Rad Dad Steez, man. Who would have known? Going from tripping balls at raves, MCing for you at your shows to going to Rad Dad life, man. It is a good life. I wanted to get into a little bit of our Galapagos history, which is,
Yeah.
you know, a big start of introducing point for a lot of the homies out there that met you, like Meaty and Denizen and Quell and all those guys, Quelly Belly. Um,
Yeah, big up the whole fam,
the whole
Galapagos.
G4 crew, Off White. I think Off White was one of the first people to use one of your beats, a beat that you and
And
Morph
he's
made.
still using my beats to this day. It's funny.
Like a beat CD you gave him.
Yeah, old beats. He just did a new
Nice, dude.
song. He just did a new song recently that he put up on YouTube, and it was he had hit me up. He's like, I just want to make sure it's okay if I use this beat. I'm like, yeah, that's
Nice,
fine.
man. Shout out to Off White, the original
It's definitely some
Pinoy.
of that old,
Pinoy boy.
sample style. I think it was like a Three Dog Night sample or something.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, so you came out to Chicago and met everybody, and they had all already been listening to all your mixes because I was still playing all the old Kip mixes heavily when I lived in Chicago. And I remember when you came out, you and Media had hit it off, and it's the first time I seen him really intrigued by another producer where he was like, how do you do this? And you're like, yeah, check it out, man. You just use these. And you guys had a brain melting moment with each other hanging out. And from then on, it was kind of, you were on and rocking with a lot of those guys, man, which was nice to see.
Which was just insane in my world because I didn't consider myself a producer necessarily, but Meaty, oh my gosh, it was like looking at his drums in Acid Pro. It was like they looked like little like like Twisters or something, you know.
Yeah,
Was
because
like,
the way everything was lined up and split.
yeah, it was just all like
Yeah.
done up. I was like, oh my gosh, like
I
who is this guy?
I had him on he was on right before you, and when I was talking to him about that, I was like, man, I had still to this day don't know how you matched up all those drums and acid in 120 BPM.
I get it now, but it's like he blew my mind.
Yeah.
He blew my mind because he was like, you know, how are you making this and how are you doing that? And I'm like telling him that I was like pitching the records out to
Oh
like
yeah.
to
Yep.
go different speeds, and he's like, no, just take them at 0. And I was like, oh, like that blew my head up because I was like, oh, you want to keep everything at 0 so that you can have like, so you don't have to like tune a guitar or a piano like to like a pitched sample, you know.
Right.
You can have musicians play along with it. But it was like I didn't get it at first. I was like, how you do that? Like, how does that work? You know? But it's like he's really like he's slicing things up so finely that that you can kind of put it into whatever timing after that you want, you know?
It was a lot of work. It looked like it
Yeah.
was a lot of work.
Well, but after I figured it out, I was like, oh, that's the kind of work you need to do. And that's the like there's people out there that have become really like famous for it too, like alchemists.
Well, also, yeah, that's another thing that I learned from Jungle was like, every bar and some of the stuff that you would play me, every bar fucking changed. Almost every drum hit changed pitch. Everything had a different pattern, and that's what I learned to appreciate. And then it kind of fucked me up with music for a while because I was like, oh, this everything is fucking boring. Because you'd listen to Square Pusher, or you'd listen to Apex Twins, or something you would do, or something AJ would do, or whoever was banging out Jungle, and man, it just would blow my mind. Like, fuck, how are they doing all those different patterns? Like, where are they coming up with this? And yeah, it fucked up hip hop for me for a while because hip hop was so much of just a loop based thing until I got back into writing.
Yeah, for me, it brought everything together. I feel like I really understood all the breaks and all the drum samples that were coming through for hip hop and everything. And, you know, uh, Jungle and drum and bass was really just kind of this exhibitionist thing where it was like, let's see how far we can take the choppage on the samples, that everybody knows and loves.
Do you remember battling that one? I forget his name, but you battled some dude at Lucky Dragon, and I remember. Yeah. And he was cool. But yeah, you guys had like a friendly battle. And I remember the first thing you played was like the funeral entrance song.
Yeah.
And weren't you playing a Quell sample too? It was
No, I don't remember what.
yeah, it was like one of Quelly's lines from Cliche.
Leave you scared to drop shit like
School stalls with no doors. Yeah, bro, that was great. And then I forget what track you played after that, but it was your track, I think, and it was hard as fuck. I can't remember what it was though. It was a nutty track, but yeah.
I guess
so,
but I think I might have a VHS recording of that night.
I have to keep checking myself and realizing that a lot of the people listening are hip hop heads and they don't really understand. Or maybe they do, but maybe some people don't have a grasp of what we're talking about. But with Jungle, it's like you compress a bunch of drums into one bar to make, a 165 to 180 tempo. And you could probably go even higher than that. But also half of that tempo is also a hip hop tempo, which made it easy for me to rap to. And also learn off of some of the MCs that Kip would show me, like MC Det, still one of my favorite MCs of all times. He's still one of the best choppers, best toasters, best flow. Like those guys that were rhyming over Jungle were on next level shit.
And that's something I think too that was semi unaccepted in its time, but a lot of British MCing was kind of unaccepted, and that I'm saying, this from an American standpoint too, where hip hop is an American-based culture that was born here, And, sometimes when we hear an accent, we're kind of unaccepting of it. So first of all, it's like just because they're British, they're getting unaccepted into hip hop. And then in their own world, where it's like Jamaican, like ska was born in London, and like their culture and their black culture was not accepting them as well, because they're like also not accepting that they're like rapping, or rapping to a techno beat. So it's like,
was ska the original? Those are the original skinheads, right? Black skinheads, or did that start in Jamaica?
I don't know. I just know that the music was born after the Jamaican culture. There was a heavy Jamaican culture that moved to London after something happened in the British government, which allowed them to actually leave the island,
Right. Yeah. It always boggled my mind why Jamaicans moved all the way to Britain, to England.
Because they were allowed to leave. And I guess, London was a cool city that was a good destination. I don't know.
Because I mean, a lot of Jamaicans ended up in Toronto too, which was like,
and New York City.
And New York City. Yeah. They could have came to Cali. They could have came to Arizona. It's almost the same climate. But
Cali's more the vibe.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I would even go as far to say that jungle MCs are the whole reason why other regions of the world and other countries hip hop style and music style is accepted in America, because to me it was they were the first ones rapping outside of America that was close to what we were doing. And then from jungle spawned dubstep and grime. And then from grime became really accepted and popular.
I would say to myself or to everybody else too, that the jungle music was kind of that black hip hop culture coming out of London,
Right. Yeah.
I feel kind of bad for them too, saying this as an American, because we are hip hop. And to us, it was kind of cheesy, and then to their peers and their elders, it was also kind of cheesy, because they were like blood clot that, their older uncles and stuff were from Jamaica, and they were like, you should rap to a reggae beat,
Right. So, I mean, I think that's what made it so interesting for me, is that it was such a mesh of cultures, and it also was its own thing that not a lot of people liked. And I think maybe that's my curse. I like a lot of shit that people don't like. And maybe I like it because a lot of people don't like it. But man, I was blown away by it. It took me by storm for a long time,
Yeah, I just like seeing those people, how colorful those people are that come out of poverty, or don't really have a chance, like how like, it's so intriguing to me how they make their culture and how they make their way, which is another reason why I feel so strongly about purveying culture in a small town too, because it's like, it's my will to show people what other people have done with themselves in other parts of the world,
And this now I just remembered what we were talking about, and that just brought me to this thought. Yeah, doing it for the love is there's a richness in that, figuring out how to do the things you want to do without tampering with its essence, with its true essence. And I think you and I are both at that place where it's like, I'm sure we could have done a lot of things differently to get to a lot of certain places, but we stayed within our realm of what we love to do. Like I loved underground hip hop. I still do. You love jungle. You still do. I still love jungle too, and they're niche things that not a lot of people are into. And for me, it's special for me when people don't know what I'm into and I can share it with them. You know, it gives me a good feeling. And I'm sure you feel the same way. You know, you feel good about sharing things with people. It's like Flag's a
For-
jungle town. People don't realize.
yeah,
And
but
it's because of you, you know? It's
and
because of
I
you.
believe that. I do believe that. I believe that I made it that way, you know?
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay because I own it and I accept it now. I don't think that I accepted it in the past, you know, but
Same. Yeah.
but
I mean,
I love it.
right.
And it's funny because, well, I mean, now just, you know, not too long ago, there's a new mayor, but the last mayor that we had, I've talked to her a few times, and there's people in the music culture here in Arizona that call me the mayor of Flagstaff. And
Oh, you told her that? That's cool, man.
and no, I've talked to her before and met her, and she said that to me. She said, you know that people call you the mayor. So it's really funny.
You've been giving people joy and happiness for many years in Flagstaff, Arizona. And if you ever get a chance to go to Flag, you'll probably see Kip out there skating, probably not busting a piece because he'll get in trouble for that, but maybe throwing a party. And yeah, Flag is a special town, especially right now with COVID and all this stuff going on. I like tickets are cheap. Go check out Flagstaff. You rent an Airbnb and go hang out with Kip, you know. Shit, hit him up for beats too. Hit him up for mixes, whatever. I'm sure Kip is eager to share and more than willing to share. You know,
I didn't even really understand or know how much, you know, leeway that we had to bring culture here, you know, back in the Galapagos days. But I do remember those guys always having a good time when we came to Flag.
Yeah, we had a great time, man. I mean, it's like the intimacy of those hometown shows are like none other, man. I mean, it's great doing humongous shows, but it's also nice being right. It tests you when you're right in somebody's face. Like, how much confidence do you really have when somebody's staring right at you in your face like this close away?
And this last year has kind of been a good little screen too, because there's, you know, it's a small town, and I don't always want to see everybody all the time, but that is something that I have to deal with, you know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, okay. So what have you been doing recently? What's coming out for you? What's came out recently and what do you got going on next?
Well, right now I'm just kind of working on some releases because I'm not really sure exactly what I'm going to do with my night, but I was throwing a night called Elevated Drum and Bass.
Right.
And that was going for almost 3 years. And then, you know, I've lost the venue because of COVID. And then I'm probably going to keep it going as a YouTube event.
Nice.
As far as right now, I'm just kind of working on some releases. I had a song, Bad Boy Roller.
Crusher. It's a killer.
That came out on Christmas. And that's out on all major labels. And then I have a song coming out for Chinese New Year and for all the lovers of Valentine's Day. That'll be out on the 13th.
Nice, man.
February, and that's Wicked Man remixes, and it's Busy Bee and TDK song, and it's a False Flag and Kip Killagain Kings of the Jungle remix.
Right.
And 6 Block RAW remix.
Big shout out to 6 Block, man.
Yeah, shout out to all the homies. And that's going to come out exclusively for probably about a month and a half on Busy Bee's junglistdownload.com website.
Sick. Hell yeah. Shout out to Busy Bee too.
Before it heads to any of the other distributions, but I'm almost sure that that's gonna get a vinyl release.
Nice, dude. Hell yeah. Need more vinyl. Send me a copy.
I'm kind of at a loss for words. But Busy sent me an email after I sent him the songs, and he was, and those guys, big up Busy B, big up Spiky T, big up all my international friends. Those they hold me in such high regards. He asked me if I was gonna press the vinyl for it, and I told him I'm kind of not in the position financially to do anything like that right now. And he told me that he wanted to take it on. So I'm kind of like blown away.
Yeah.
I'm like, man.
Oh yeah,
like,
man.
But it's like I would want him to do it, and I'm honored because it's his song.
That's really cool, man. I hope you keep pushing with it and just keep putting out more shit constantly, because your I constantly go back to your page, man, and listen to Cool Breeze is one of my favorite tracks you've ever done. And also the stuff you used to do with Clove was some of my favorite shit. And I hope some of the stuff you guys have worked on together comes out. And
rest in peace, Clove. I have the stuff on YouTube with her, and yeah, I hope people start remixing her music.
Dude, you guys used to make beautiful music together. And
shout out to my sister. Like I said earlier in the interview, in 1991, she's the person who showed me techno music, and she was my gatekeeper to cool, for sure.
She was a special woman, fucking sweet soul. For those of you listening, we're talking about Kip's sister, Clove. She passed away recently from COVID. Rest in peace. We love you and miss you. And she was a beautiful singer, and Kip used to make incredible music with her. Man, some of that down-tempo stuff was crazy, man. Crazy good.
Yeah, sorry about the shout-outs and stuff too, but this is a drawing of Clove. And it's a cover art that's coming out for shout out Cool Hands Luke, my boy Lucas. He's putting out a beat tape with one of the songs that him and Clove did.
Hell yeah.
That's the cover art for the beat tape.
Such a amazing group of musicians and artists in such a small concentrated area like Flagstaff, Arizona. It's mind-boggling for people when they hear, a lot of people hear what's coming out of this little city, that you guys have been producing for years. And I've been so lucky to be a part of it at certain times in my life. And you and Morph and Clove and Luke and everybody from
Shout out Cheda.
Shout out Cheda. You guys have all been a big influence in my life as well. And I'm forever grateful for all the stuff that we've done together. And, I love you, my dude.
Thank you for sending the record over. I want to tell you the last song, I think, on the first side of Couch. I really love that one a lot.
I haven't even got to really look at the record too much, but I did listen to it. I don't remember what the last song is. Could have been number 5.
Stizo, Couch record.
Yo, hey, Controller 7. Hands made.
Controller 7. Shout out Mestizo.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think Where the Heart Is.
Yeah, yep. That's from my wife. Or my wife. And the song before that was actually for a homie of mine, Corey, who passed away January 2nd, 2020. That's how the COVID year started. And
off.
Rest in peace to him, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. I think this is gonna be just part 1, because I think we got a lot more to talk about, man. Every time we're on the phone, it's like I gotta stop you from talking because there's so much shit. There's a ton of stories to talk about. I think we're gonna do a part 2 with Kip Killagain, Mestizo, aka Yoda One, who I was Yoda One when you first met me.
Yeah, and I hope I didn't forget anybody. So shout out all the homies for sure.
Shout out Kings of the Jungle. You can check out Kip on Spotify. He's got a record label called Kings of the Jungle. He's got years and years of stuff. You can check out his tracks with Dennis and Kane, Off-White, Quell, me. Yeah, there's a ton of shit out there. Just look up Kip, man. It's Kip Killagain, Flagstaff, Arizona, Kings of the Jungle. My first DJ, my last DJ, my only DJ.
And thank you to Mestizo for doing these shows, because I really love everybody that you've interviewed. And I think it's so important that people know about their music, you know?
Same, man. Same. And I think it's important for people to know about your music, and important for you to keep putting out music and keep creating and experimenting and growing and maturing like you always have been. And, you know, I look forward to possibly doing some more stuff with you, and you know,
Yeah,
we keep going, and it don't stop till the casket drop, you know.
Thank you for thinking of me, because yeah, I don't hold any of my stuff in any regards. So
well, I'm glad I got you on here, man, because we've been waiting to do this for a while, and you know, it wouldn't have been right to move on without you, you know. So
yeah, I love it. Yeah, we'll have another talk session, and let's definitely work on some music. So
yes, sir.
Happy New Year.
Love
Happy
you, bro.
Chinese New Year coming up. Happy Lover's Day. Everybody, please check out junglistdownload.com. Find the Wicked Man remixes.
Yeah. Dig. Big sound. Killer Man. Kip Killagain. Episode 3. Mestizo Show, man. Appreciate you, dude. Peace.
Later.
Miracle, spiritual.